Welcome to Sporting News Audio. My name is David Arnott, sitting here with Ryan Fagan, Sporting News baseball writer. Today we're going to be talking about some baseball players that have been really disappointing given their expectations that we had for them before the season. Josh Beckett is the first one that comes to mind. He's had an ERA over 7. What does the outlet look like for him this year?
Well, I think Beckett is one of those guys who, until he proves otherwise, he's been there and done that. He's been a great big game pitcher. That's his reputation. And he's had patches where he's struggled before, and he's always worked his way through it. He's kind of one of those, a throwback type guy who's not going to let you know maybe how much he's hurting. And that's really the question that you wonder right now. I mean, when Josh Beckett through 7 starts has given up, 52 hits and 41 innings, that's just not what you expect to see out of him. And you wonder what's wrong. And then, is he going to let the trainers in on that, or, is he going to try to work his way through? I think right now, he's one of the worries for the Red Sox. And, same way with last year. David Ortiz is in that same kind of under 200 funk that he just can't seem to shake. And I think that, especially with as well as the Rays have played coming out of the gate, there's the margin for error for the Red Sox in the AL East is even slimmer than it has been in the past couple years.
Well, Ortiz last year, if we all recall that, did absolutely horribly at the beginning of the year, but he actually came back fairly well in the second half. I mean, are we looked at what are the odds? Would you say off the top of your head of a repeat of that?
He did, and he was very good in the second half. I mean, I think his home run totals compared favorably with anyone else in the majors, and that's what the Red Sox are really hoping for. I think they had a little bit more of a cushion last year because A, he was a year younger, and B, the Rays were really struggling at this point last year. They weren't playing the best baseball in the majors, and I think that's what's put a little bit more of an emphasis on that. It's hard to turn your season around, and he did a great job of it last year. The question is, I mean, his bat looks slow. He's having trouble catching up with 90 mile an hour fastballs, much less 95 mile an hour fastballs, and he just doesn't look like he's very comfortable up at the plate, and I think that's really the biggest worry right now.
Let's switch over to Chicago, middle of the country, different fan base entirely, and they've got a whole world of things that are going on over there. The White Sox specifically, let's start with them. They're starting pitching. I mean, we thought going into the season, okay, Jake Peavy, he's a guy who maybe not doing as well as he did in the National League, switching over to the American League, especially in a hitter's part too, but he hasn't done nearly what we thought he could do. And then Mark Buehrle is having his first bad season since, 2002 when he had a bad season then. He's only had one or two before, and now he's also got an ERA up near 5. What's going on with them?
Well, it is frustrating, and I think, Ozzie Guillen is having to answer the questions that he did not expect to be answering at this point of the year. And, David, like you talked about, that was supposed to be the strength, 1 through 5. The White Sox were supposed to have a rotation that could match up with anyone in baseball, and that just hasn't been the case. Outside of John Danks, who has been absolutely fantastic, he's got an ERA under 2 through 6 starts, and it's just been the kind of pitcher that they expected him to develop into. They've had trouble getting consistency. Jake Peavy was absolutely horrible through his first 4 or 5 starts, even though his last couple have been much, much better. Buehrle's had 2 really bad starts that have inflated his ERA and probably don't reflect exactly how he really has been this year. Even though he hasn't been great, he hasn't been as horrible as his 2-4 record suggests. And, Gavin Floyd's a guy that, a couple years ago, it was Floyd and Danks that were going to be the future of that rotation. And we sit here 7 starts into the year, and Floyd's ERA is up near 7. And that's just not what you expect out of a guy who has that much raw talent. But, Phillies fans will tell you that they expected Gavin Floyd to be a star for them 5 years ago, and he just wasn't able to put it all together, until he got to the White Sox. And now he seems to have some of those troubles that he's had before.
In a division with no clear-cut best team there, one of those top 3 teams, I mean, you got to think that they really need Gavin Floyd, Peavy, Buehrle, those 3 guys to really step it up and match what Danks has done in order to bring him close. Because even the slightest difference in runs and wins and everything, every run matters in that division.
It does, and I think you have the Twins in there, and you look at those top 3 teams, and in the Twins and the Tigers and the White Sox, the expected top 3 coming into this year. And it's pretty clear what has been the difference. The Twins' starting rotation has been very good. They've had Francisco Liriano has come back and just been an absolute godsend for that rotation. They kept hoping the past couple of years that he was going to be as good as he was, that first flash in the majors when he had, I think, a 2.16 ERA in his first extended try up there. But, he's been very good. The rest of the rotation has been solid. And you look at the White Sox, we talked about how bad they've been. And you look at the Tigers and the Tigers starting rotation. I mean, if you would have been able to put money on the fact that Dontrelle Willis would have the best ERA on that team, coming into the 6th week of the season, you'd have made a lot of money because, his ERA, while leading the team, is still not great. It's a 3.99 right now, but Justin Verlander struggled. Rick Porcello has struggled. Max Scherzer has struggled coming over to the American League and the Tigers. And Jeremy Bonderman has struggled too. He had a first good outing, but he's trying to work his way back from a bunch of issues that really, the expectations on him are really tempered at this point. But, they can't have an ERA like that from their rotation and expect to keep up with the Twins this year.
I mean, I remember looking at that Tigers rotation at the beginning of the season and thinking, man, Verlander and especially Scherzer. I'm not so high on Porcello because he doesn't really get the strikeouts I like to see in a young pitcher. But Scherzer and Verlander together, that's power pitching. That's what everyone wants out of their starters. Let's move back to Chicago and the National League club there, the Cubs. They've got all sorts of weird things going on. Alfonso Soriano seems reborn. He's just hitting everything that's thrown up at the plate. But they've also got Carlos Zambrano, who, no matter how far back you think his slump has gone, you'd be hard-pressed to think that he's slumping so badly that he should be moved to the bullpen, which is what they've done.
Yeah, I think part of that was the manager, Lou Piniella, trying to find a solution to the 8th inning issue. They've had Carlos Marmol, who's been pretty good in that closer's role, but they were just absolutely horrible in the 7th and 8th innings. So I think that Piniella sees Zambrano as the type of guy who can fill that role. He's a power arm who could come in and be a shutdown guy in the 8th inning. And I think that as much as anything, he saw a team that, in his eyes, underachieved last year, and they were underachieving to start this year. And he wanted to make a move. He wanted to make a statement that got everyone's attention. And moving Carlos Zambrano, a perennial Cy Young candidate, at least in the first half of the seasons, to the 8th inning, really did that. And he had a 7.45 ERA through his first 4 starts, and he hasn't been lights out as a reliever in 6 games, 7 innings. He's given up 10 hits, but he's been serviceable, and I think that's. They were just trying to make an impact move. They were trying to shake up everybody and say, okay, don't get comfortable because we're not afraid, to move you around if we feel it's in the best interest of the team.
Ryan Fagan, Sporting News baseball writer. You do the power poll every week on Sporting News Today. If you haven't signed up for Sporting News Today, there's a link up at the top of www.sportingnews.com. Click over there, sign up for it. Great product. Daily email gets sent to your inbox. All the sports news you could want for the day. This is Sporting News Audio. Thanks for joining us.